G'day and welcome to another episode of Spectrum Uncensored. Today I have with me a very special guest, the South Australian Assistant Minister to the Premier and Assistant Minister for Autism, Emily Bourke. Thank you so much for your time today and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So you're the first person in Australian history to be appointed as an Assistant Minister for Autism. Tell me about how your position came to be.
Yeah, it actually is even more rare than that. We've discovered the only government in the entire world to have one member solely focused on autism. So as my kids like to say, I'm the only one in the galaxy. But it is really not about me holding a position that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. This really did come about from years and years and years and years and years and years of advocacy from the autistic and autism communities. We found in the lead up to the last state election, before we were in government, that we were holding forums with now the Premier, and Pete was just hearing time and time again, my kid's having trouble at school, or I'm an adult and I can't get into the workforce. And it was just coming up too much in our general forum. So we thought, let's hold one forum and see how it goes in regards to autism policy. And it was booked out very, very quickly. And I think they held another 3 or 4 or 5 after that. And each of them kept being booked out. And the Premier now, Peter Malinowski, has realised there's something here that needs to be addressed. There's too much consistency and we need to come up with some policy. So we took a raft of policies to the last election about building knowledge in our schools and also delivering a charter and strategy for our state for the first time. And then we were elected. And so not long after, I think 6 months into being in government, we realised we needed a dedicated person to take responsibility of these policies, just because whether we were talking about putting in a new autism inclusion teacher in our schools, or whether we were talking about developing an autism strategy for the first time in the state, or we were talking about rolling out a charter to all government departments, we really needed someone to be working across every government department. It didn't just sort of naturally fit within one portfolio area. So that's why my position was created. That's sort of where it all came about from, was the community, to be honest. The community got behind this idea and really made their voices loud and clear that change needed to happen. And I'm really proud as a government that we didn't just listen, but we listened, heard, and now have acted. So I think we're getting there. We've made a good start, that's for sure.
It sounds like a very busy position. Like there'd be a lot of things to deal with. And I understand that you're not neurodivergent yourself, nor are your children. So where does your passion for autism advocacy come from?
Yeah, I guess I am a politician at the end of the day. I got into my role because I love helping people and I really enjoy bringing people together. And to be honest, I wanted to be very honest at the very beginning of me taking on this role, is that I didn't have lived experience. But it also comes down to knowledge, right? So even over my time of being in this role for just over a year now, I, through my knowledge, now know that family members have gone through assessments. I know friends who've gone through assessments because of this new knowledge. So that's a really powerful message. Is something that I didn't know much about a year ago has really changed the life of many that are close to me. But I just think, as a politician, my job is about bringing people together. It is about getting the right people at the table and listening to the community. So we had 25 forums in 3 weeks, just so that we could sit, learn, and hear what were those consistencies in the community. And that really enabled us to say, that's not okay. That shouldn't be happening. So it's been really powerful in some ways coming in from the outside and be able to say, you might have been thinking, because you're living this every single day, that that's just the norm, but it's not. You shouldn't have to put up with that anymore. So that's been one powerful thing, to be able to come from the outside.
I kind of, I like that, because, it's a very neurotypical world. So having somebody neurotypical kind of come in to advocate for neurodivergence is, it's, knowledge is power and everyone has to start somewhere to understand these things. So Tell me about the Autism Education Advisory Group that you have formed. How many members are there and what strategies are they developing to make a difference?
Yeah, so we actually have two, but the one that you're talking about is our larger one. So we have 13 members. I'm one of the 13, and 11 of the members are autistic. So it's a really great example of having a lived experience. I believe it's the largest majority in the country for an advisory committee. So it's something we really wanted to make sure we weren't just, again, talking about let's listen to the community. We really wanted to make the community's voice centre and loud at the table. So that's their role really is to be a part of the rollout of the strategy. So the strategy consultation paper we did ended up being the largest consultation for a disability-focused discussion, you'll say, in our state's history. Because we were able to get out there in the community and hold those 25 forums and make sure it was a very powerful document. So we now have a really powerful document that the advisory committee can work with, and their role is to really help us bring it together, make sure the voices that were shared at those forums or through written submissions or audio recordings are what is being reflected in our strategy, and keeping the government to account, which is something really, really important as well. So that's what the advisory committee is for. We also have an education advisory committee to help with the rollout of the new Autism Inclusion Teacher Network, because again, we wanted to have that lived experience at the table to say, this is what my experience was at school. I'm a teacher and I'm autistic. This is my experience at the front of the classroom. So we really are making sure that we've got that lived experience at our table. And, that's why through our 25 forums that we held, it became very clear that people wanted one location to go to about what can happen next. I'm starting my journey. I'm just about to go through an assessment process, or I've just been diagnosed. What happens now? Or, I'm a business and I really don't know how to make my workplace inclusive for the autistic community. What does that mean? So we created an Office for Autism. So that's an agency within a department. Now, we could have put that into the education department, but we know people are born autistic and they'll pass away autistic, so that didn't really make sense.
Yep.
We could have put it into the Department of Human Services, which focuses on disability. But again, we felt there was more to this conversation than focusing on the disability. It's really about what can we do in our workforce, what can we do in the justice system, what can we do in our health system. We couldn't really think of it of a department that wasn't needing to change. So we put it into the highest office possible, into the Department of Premier and Cabinet. So that new Office for Autism is based in Department of Premier and Cabinet. And to be the director of that new office, you needed to be autistic. And to be the advisor in that office, you also needed to be autistic. And those two roles were filled, and they've been in place now for 6 months and doing a fantastic job.
It's really lovely because everyone deserves to have a voice, and it sounds like you're really trying your best to cover all the bases, because it's not just one little thing here or there, it's just like every aspect of life. So I really, really love that. And what would you say has been your biggest win during your career so far?
Through this role, it would definitely, I feel, be bringing the community together to make their voices heard. There's lots of policy wins that we've had, but policies come about because we're listening to people. So I sort of think, yes, we've got these fantastic policies, but we wouldn't have had those changes to start with without listening. So I'm a country kid. I believe in community. I just think it's what makes everything work. If you don't have the community on side, or if the community aren't working together, or if you can't have a united community, you're not going to have a great outcome in policy. So for me, that's really the foundation of any success. But I guess the new autism inclusion teachers is pretty remarkable. At the start of this year, there wasn't a single autism inclusion teacher. Going into term 4, 99% of our public primary schools had an autism inclusion teacher
Wow.
and access to one. So that's a remarkable change. And that isn't a new teacher that we've just find a tree somewhere and shake out some people with knowledge in autism. That really is a role where we've taken an existing teacher out of the classroom and we are training them up to have knowledge, and that training happens once a week or up to once a week for a day. So, that's a big change, and that's an ongoing role as well. So probably one also that doesn't get too much attention, but is massive. We have 4 universities in South Australia that provide a teacher's degree. 6 months ago, I said it's really great that we're training up our teachers in our classroom, but why do we have to do that? Surely they learn about this at university, and turns out they don't. They don't cover disability studies, inclusive studies, or really much about autism. So we said, well, let's go about changing that and have that inserted into our university degrees. Now, people laughed at us when we said that because, it's like asking, at the end of the day, all these universities are competitors. They want to make sure that they can do something different to the next university down the line. They want to make sure that they can get the teachers in their front door versus the other universities. So we had all universities sit down at the one table. And it was pretty much like asking Hungry Jack's and McDonald's to sit down and tell us what's in your hamburger. So they sat down and they told us what's in their teachers' degrees, and they mapped them out for us, and all of them agreed there is room to absolutely be doing more. And they have now all agreed to insert 6 new modules from Autism CRC into their teachers' degree. So that's a massive change. So instead of, as a government, just training 1 teacher a year, we will have 1,300 teachers coming out every year with new knowledge in autism. And that's been a lot of work from a lot of people, but also a lot of good faith from a lot of people because it's so new for them. This could have happened a long time ago, but again, it's about bringing people with you. It's about making sure that everyone is appreciative and understanding why we're actually doing something and working together to make it happen.
That's just amazing. Like, that's must have taken a lot of work, and just, it needs to be, rolled out everywhere. That's just incredible. And, you're starting it at the beginning rather than trying to play catch up later on. So, I mean, we've talked a lot about what you've accomplished so far, but what are your plans for the future?
Yeah, I always have lots of ideas. So I do usually have a crazy ideas list that I keep, but which my staff love. But I have a lot of things that we really like to do, and a lot of it again always comes back to what the community are looking for. At the moment, we're trying to do some really big policies and change in the community. But I hope we can get to, once we've sorted all those big changes out, is back to that grassroots opportunities of working with new up and coming organisations or what is needed in the community at a more grassroots level, because when you can really make those local changes, that can have a big impact on people's lives. So that's where I'd like to get back to, but at the moment we need to put those big pieces in place so that it's easier for the private industry and for people outside of government to also follow. So that's what we're really hoping for.
I feel like hopefully everyone, it's like a lead by example type situation, and it just rolls out across Australia in every state and territory, because it is so needed across the board throughout the country, not just in South Australia. And I'm kind of jealous. Like, I'm in Queensland and we don't have any of this yet. So
feel free to move down.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I've heard it's very lovely down there. So there's still time.
We have seasons in South Australia.
Oh, wow. I'm sold. But thank you so much for your time. I know you're a very busy woman, but I really appreciate you coming and chatting to me, and I've learned so much just in this short period of time, and what you're doing is absolutely amazing, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a big team effort, so thank you. Really appreciate being with you today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.